Prague, 1612. A scream tears through the heavy air of an alchemist's workshop. The smell of burning metal, the hiss of steam, and the faint shimmer of liquid silver. All of it mixes with the sound of agony as a woman's face is pressed against a scalding iron. What's worse? There's an audience. Dozens of onlookers stand just beyond the doorway, watching silently. They've paid to see this, and she asked for it. This, unbelievably, was called a beauty treatment. Tonight, we're going to learn about 3 rituals so horrific that historians tried to scrub them from history itself. We're talking about the white face paint that literally rotted Queen Elizabeth I's skin while she was still alive, the eye drops that blinded an entire generation of noblewomen, and the silver elixir that left permanent black scars where smooth, pale skin once gleamed. But here's what's really disturbing. One of these methods, or at least its modern descendant, is still legal today, and you might have its ingredients sitting innocently in your bathroom right now. So, let's rewind to where this nightmare began. Venice 1550. The air smells of salt and spice. You stroll through the Piazza San Marco and instantly know who is noble and who is not. It's not the silk gowns or the jewels, it's their skin. The rich look almost ghostly smooth, pale, nearly translucent, as if carved from porcelain. The poor are sunburned, freckled, alive, and that was the problem. In Renaissance Europe, a tan was a death sentence for your social reputation. It screamed peasant. It meant you toiled in the fields, touched dirt, lived under the sun. But white skin meant power. It meant your hands had never worked. It meant you were a creature of luxury. Women would do anything to get it, and anything meant poison. The beauty manuals of the day read like grim alchemy textbooks: lead, mercury, arsenic, vinegar, all mixed into creams with one goal: erase color, erase imperfection, erase life itself. And the craziest part? They knew. They knew what it was doing to them. Doctors of the time wrote about what they called the beauty death. They documented every stage: the trembling hands, the hair falling out in clumps, the teeth loosening, then dropping from rotting gums, the skin turning a sickly gray, then madness, then finally mercy, death. The average noblewoman who used these cosmetics died around age 37, so why didn't they stop? Because to them, to live ugly was a worse fate than to die beautiful. Better to be admired in the coffin than pitied in old age. Nowhere was that devotion clearer than in the story of one particular poison, the deadliest of them all. Method 1. Venetian ceruse, the foundation that ate your face alive. Imagine you're a 16-year-old noblewoman preparing for your debut ball. Your maid opens a small jar filled with a thick, milky paste. It smells faintly of vinegar and chalk. She brushes it gently over your cheeks, your forehead, your neck. Layer by layer, your natural skin disappears under a smooth, pale mask. It looks divine. It feels like victory. But you've just painted your death onto your face. Venetian ceruse was a chemical trinity of white lead, mercury, and arsenic, a blend that could kill a grown man in minutes if swallowed, and women applied it every single day. At first, it just burns. Then, small sores appear around your nose and mouth. Your maid tells you not to worry. It means it's working, she says. It's purging the impurities. So you apply more. You cover the sores with thicker layers. But ceruse doesn't just sit on your skin. It seeps in. Through those tiny wounds, the lead invades your bloodstream, killing you molecule by molecule. 6 months in, your hands start trembling. A year later, your hair falls out. 2 years, your teeth begin to rot and drop, your breath carrying the stench of decay. 3 years, you're hallucinating, hearing whispers from mirrors that no one else can hear. Your brain is literally being cooked by lead poisoning. And still, you don't stop. Why? Because the lead created a perfect, vicious trap. It whitened the skin by killing it, but it also caused the sores, the scars, and the discoloration. The only way to hide the grotesque damage being caused by the lead was to apply even more lead. Even England's most powerful woman couldn't resist this deadly loop. Queen Elizabeth I was the most famous ceruse user in history. After smallpox left her face scarred in her 20 seconds, she turned to it to hide the damage and project an image of immortal power. By 60, her face was a living corpse. Her ladies-in-waiting wrote that when she removed her makeup at night, chunks of her own decaying skin came off with it. Her jawline was riddled with open sores that never healed. When she died, her body showed massive lead damage. The product worked exactly as promised. It kept her pale, flawless in public, and dead long before she was buried. But if you think painting poison on your skin is horrific, just wait, because the next beauty ritual didn't sit on the surface. It went straight through the eyes. Picture yourself in a candlelit ballroom in Renaissance Italy. Everywhere you look, women with enormous, glistening black pupils that seem to swallow the light. They look enchanting, hypnotic, and completely unnatural. Those eyes weren't born that way. They were made with a plant so deadly that 3 of its berries could kill you outright. Its name? Belladonna. Italian for beautiful woman, a fitting title for something that could make you irresistible, right before it blinded you. The poison wasn't eaten, it was dropped directly into the eyes. 1 drop per pupil, instant magic. Within minutes, the muscles that control your iris become paralyzed. Your pupils expand to their widest point and stay that way for days. In dim light, the effect was stunning. Eyes looked bigger, darker, full of emotion. In candlelight, they reflected every flame like black glass. Men were obsessed. But the women behind those eyes, they were suffering in silence. Because Belladonna didn't just make eyes beautiful, it destroyed them. In 1595 alone, Venetian doctors documented 37 cases of permanent blindness among noblewomen who used it. That's just the official count. Here's what it did to you. First, the world goes dazzlingly bright. Even candlelight hurts. Your pupils can't contract, so every ray of light feels like a blade stabbing into your brain. Then the headaches begin. Then the blurring. Then the darkness. Within months, your sight is gone for good. And yet they kept using it. Why? It's the beauty addiction loop. You use it once, men compliment your gaze, you feel powerful, wanted. 3 days later, your vision is still hazy, but you have another ball to attend. Would you walk in with normal, small eyes? Of course not. You'd reach for the poison again, even knowing it was destroying you. But Belladonna, at least, was a choice. The next ritual wasn't. The women who endured what came next didn't know they were signing up for disfigurement. They trusted someone they shouldn't have. And when the truth came out, it shook Europe's elite to its core. The year was 1612. The place, Prague. The treatment promised eternal youth through silver. Let's set the record straight. No one was ever dipped in molten silver. That's a myth. The real story is far, far worse, because the silver didn't just touch their skin, it fused with it, and once it did, it never let go. In the early 1600s, Europe was obsessed with alchemy, and among the elite, that obsession turned toward immortality through beauty. Enter Jan Conrad Dippel, a self-proclaimed alchemist and physician. Part 15. His specialty, silver. Dippel believed silver held the key to eternal youth. After all, silver never rusts or tarnishes. So, he reasoned, if you could bind it to human flesh, maybe the skin would never age either. It sounds absurd now, but it was revolutionary then. Wealthy women from across Bohemia lined up at his door, desperate to try what he called argentum vitalis, the silver of life. But what Dippel actually used was silver nitrate, one of the most corrosive chemicals known to man. Part 16. When silver nitrate touches skin, it burns deep, killing living tissue and staining whatever's left a permanent, ghostly black. Imagine the experience. You're a countess in your mid-30 seconds. You pay Dippel what amounts to $80,000 in today's money. He straps your head still so you don't flinch. Then he dips a brush into a shimmering silver solution and begins painting it across your face. At first, it feels cool. Then suddenly, the burning starts. Like acid, you scream. He assures you the pain means it's working. Part 17. But here's what's really happening. The silver nitrate is oxidizing your skin, literally burning through the upper layers and reacting with the cells beneath. The chemical penetrates deep into your dermis, where it binds to the tissue permanently. Within minutes, the damage is irreversible. A day later, your skin feels scorched, raw. Within a week, your face is mottled black and gray, the pattern matching every single brushstroke. It never fades. You look in the mirror and realize your face has been branded forever. Part 18. Of the 12 women Dipple treated, 3 took their own lives within months. 5 fled public life entirely, joining convents to hide their faces behind veils. The remaining 4 dragged him to court. Dipple was tried for manslaughter and executed. But if you think that was the darkest chapter in beauty history, think again. Because what came next wasn't science gone wrong. It wasn't chemistry or ignorance. It was deliberate. It was murder. And it came from a woman who believed she'd found the ultimate beauty secret. Part 19. One written not in ink or mercury, but in blood. Hungary, 1610. At the center of a lonely castle sits Countess Elizabeth Bathory, one of the most powerful noblewomen in Europe and one of history's most prolific killers. Her crime? Trying to stop time itself. As she aged, her beauty began to fade, and in her world, that wasn't just vanity, it was a loss of power. Legend has it, one day a young maid accidentally pulled her hair. In a rage, Elizabeth struck her so hard that blood splattered onto her skin. Later, she thought she noticed the spot where the blood had landed looked smoother, younger. Part 20. That moment became an obsession. She became convinced that bathing in the blood of virgins would restore her youth. Over the next 25 years, her servants lured peasant girls to her castle with promises of work. Once inside, they never left. When Bathory wanted her treatment, the girls were brought to her chambers, stripped, hung upside down, and their throats slit over a massive basin. As the blood drained, she would step in, bathing in it. Part 21. When Hungarian authorities finally stormed her castle in 1610, they found rooms filled with mutilated bodies, some fresh, some decomposing, some long turned to bone. Official estimates say she murdered around 650 women. 650. And yet, she wasn't executed. She was too powerful, too noble. So, the court did something even crueler. They bricked her alive inside her own castle chamber. No doors, no windows, just a tiny slit to pass food and water. Part 22. For 4 years, she lived in total darkness. Her final prison, a tomb built by her own vanity. When they finally opened it, she was found shriveled, aged beyond recognition. The blood had bought her nothing. Her beliefs weren't isolated madness. They were the logical, terrifying extreme of Renaissance beauty culture. A world that taught women their worth was measured in smooth skin. A world that taught them pain was the price of perfection. The poisons changed. The faces changed. The message never did. Part 23. Between 1,550 and 1,700, an estimated 15,000 European women died from cosmetic poisoning. Lead, mercury, arsenic, belladonna. These weren't fringe experiments. They were mainstream trends. And if you think we've outgrown this, look closer. In recent FDA studies, 47 out of 49 major lipstick brands still contain detectable lead. Mercury-laced skin-lightening creams remain legal in at least 12 countries, sold to millions of women chasing the same pale ideal that killed their ancestors. Part 24. The ingredients have new names. Lead acetate instead of white lead. But the poison hasn't changed. Neither has the psychology. Because every era tells its women the same lie. That aging is a disease. That beauty is survival. That it's better to suffer for perfection than to live imperfectly. From Venetian ceruse to Belladonna eyes, from silver burns to bloodbaths, it's all part of the same story. The story of people willing to destroy themselves to fit the image the world demanded. And maybe, just maybe, that story isn't over. Part 25. So before you reach for the next miracle serum, ask yourself, would you still use it if you knew what it cost the women who came before you? Because the faces in the mirror have changed, but the poison is still there. The end.